Hey YouTube, this is Frank Castle. Welcome back to another episode of War of the Visions. Today I was told that Nash Taters wouldn't be here today and that I'll be taking over. Just kidding. Hey YouTube, so today we're going to be doing something very unique and very different than normal, and that is to help out viewers that have been asking me to make videos on terms of farming. Now, I already made a video about 3 months ago on my daily normal farming routine, but I think it's time to update that video, so it's a perfect time to do that. So without further ado, let's get into my normal farming routine. Let's go. Alright, I'm a big fan of comic books, superheroes. I think a lot of people are. And of course, my name shares that of the Punisher, Frank Castle. So I figured it was... Anyways, let's talk about my daily farming routine. I begin the day by setting up what I call the flow. Because when you have a flow of what you do every single day, and it quickly becomes a habit. Statistically speaking, it takes roughly 30 days straight of doing the exact same thing in order for your mind to identify it as a habit. So by creating a flow, then you will have an efficient route to take every single day you play this game. The first thing I like to do is simply go into the units and look up all the units that I want to farm for that day. And to make it easier, I set it up like this, by using them as my favorites. So this way I kind of just go down the line and pick the units that I'm trying to farm the shards of that day. Ideally, you want to get this out of the way because many times I realize I sometimes get it done halfway and then I forget about it, and turns out I didn't actually get it all accomplished. The next thing I like to do is I go to Chocobo Expedition and make sure I unload everything that I've gathered either through my sleep or my rest periods. That's a good thing to do. And always check your shop. Shop always refreshes every 6 hours. So get in there, buy whatever you need, especially shards and or vision card shards. Now the true farming really begins here. And I think this game, in the light of the release of Eldira, has made many people realize that this game pretty much is a farming simulator, am I right? You spend the bulk of your time actually farming. And I would say maybe 10 to 20% of the time you're actually manually playing something or doing something in this game. And other times you're proud of just organizing your account, maybe doing some crafting, leveling up certain things, and overall staring at your units all day long. So unfortunately, that is part of mobile gaming. The next thing I really like to do is I like to go to the far plane and I make sure I check out the events to get anything that needs to be done that is of short duration, such as the JP reward quest. I always prioritize that because this only occurs once a day, and I have forgotten that before. And then at that point, I kind of tend to ignore everything here, and I'll get that to in a minute why I do that. The next thing I do is I make sure I do all of my daily training that are going to be limited. The pot chamber, the growth egg, the experiment chamber are always going to be limited Monday through Sunday. So therefore, I highly recommend doing all three every single day. And make sure that you do the 3 times a day for each. The guild chamber, Monday through Friday, is limited 3 times a day. On Saturdays and Sundays is limited to none. So you can farm to your heart's content. Obviously, you'll run out of energy eventually, but that's something I usually recommend people doing. The orange chamber is the only thing that I don't recommend spending your energy on, because currently there are too many events that give us an overabundance of these ores, or you can simply buy some of them from the shops. In my previous video talking about my daily farming routine, the growth egg I said was a hit or miss, and boy was that a big mistake as a beginning player. I highly recommend getting as many eggs as you can because vision cards are an important part of this game, and I actually call vision cards endgame for this game. Pot chambers are obviously very important because you need these to level up the limit birds of your UR units and the ability effect of your UR Trust Masters. For the rest of the week, I will be going over exactly my routine in terms of how I attack all of these other chambers and or specific dungeons. So for my Monday routine, I always click on the daily board here, and what I like to do is I want to check the Monday's mission. You have your regular mission that you should be doing every day, and then of course your Monday mission. Monday missions are pretty cool. You can get extra 200 gems, some large potions, some rainbow experiment. Oh, you know, I don't even understand why they don't give us one. There should be like 10 or something. Yeah, whatever. Some more gold, and of course the vital, crucial skip tickets. So in event quests, you just go ahead and do anything out of that board that I mentioned. And of course, make sure if you have a guild, you get this nice 5-hour skip tickets for your expedition, which is really cool. And that should be your priority for Mondays. Make sure you get all of these done. And I think the key word for this entire farming flow is make sure you learn to prioritize. Prioritization is very important in this game. There are going to be some things you may have to be forced to skip, and there may be things that you're probably going to be limited due to your personal time that you're going to be allocating to this game. And I think that's going to be the hardest part for each individual, is choosing which things to skip and which things to really focus on. Now I'll give you what I usually like to do in terms of farming for events. Now events are going to be something that occurs quite a bit. And as we're finding out more and more as we play the game, there are many events that kind of coincide with each other. It is important to have a sort of goal/plan to attack these events. So I'm going to use Final Fantasy Tactics Event Quest as the example. When this event first came out, roughly 3 weeks ago, I like to go ahead and attack the event quest right away. Because what ends up happening is you want to spend your first day spending up all your energy to finish up all of these quests. One of the formulas the games like to use is you need to farm specific maps multiple times in order to obtain items from the mission board. And I'll get to that in a moment. But ideally you want to get all of these done so you don't have to think too much about it during the other days of the event. And that goes with pretty much any event they release that has some sort of story. In the next week we'll be getting a rerun of an event which will have multiple maps that tells a story. Again, my suggestion is attack them on the very first day, get them all done. This way you can actually activate the EX quest once you complete all of those quests. The next thing I suggest doing during day 1 will be go ahead and try to accomplish the EX requirements as best as you can. Now I understand for beginners, perhaps mid-game players, you cannot probably beat and meet all the requirements for some of these missions. And I understand that, but bear in mind, many of these quests will come back on a rerun. Sometimes even the exclusive events such as the collaboration have a chance to return as well. Personally, I did not accomplish many of the EX quests when it was first shown to us because my accounts weren't very strong, and I simply realized it is what it is. If I can't beat it, I can't beat it. A good example would be in my previous video a couple of days ago, I showed that I couldn't beat the brutality equipment on the first release. Obviously, as you can see, I accomplished it easily, and I did it, and I repeated as many times as I could to meet the mission board requirements. And the mission board requirements is by far one of the most important aspects to your farming routine. Ideally, you always want to target these because they're going to give you lots of nice rewards. When you click on the event icon, it's going to give you all the different things that you need to meet, and therefore they're going to give you nice rewards. For example, since I didn't accomplish the brutality difficulty level for the training quest the very first time it was released, I just simply ignored it. Since it did come back, I accomplished it, and now I beat it and I can claim all of these nice rewards. Boom, done. Other things you want to gauge how you progress in this game is simply by doing these monthly missions, part of the mission board. And what you can do is simply just do as many of these as possible, and some of these will definitely take time because you're limited to how many you can do per day, such as the hard quests, such as arena, and of course multi-quests. Experiment chamber. So you always want to take a look at these as a beginner or intermediate player since this is new to you. Always look at the very end because you always get really nice rewards. But bear in mind, you have 30 days to do it. As long as you do it every single day, you're going to most likely have several days to spare in case you miss it for whatever reasons. Another thing about events, such as the Final Fantasy Tactics event, was that they offered us units and/or vision cards. Many times over, beginning players don't really know what to do in terms of flow, right? So when you're getting a new unit, generally speaking, they offer you what they call the Whimsy Shop in this game. A secret shop hidden, and the icon will appear here if you activate it. Then you have access to getting shards of specific units, and this is of course random, but the recent addition is you are always guaranteed 3 shards of either units and/or vision cards in the shop every time you trigger it. And the best way to trigger it is by simply going back to what I originally said during your daily routine and farm your heart nodes first. If you can't activate it then go ahead and approach it through either farming your story mode if you have some sort of event going on, such as right now, where you have extra JP and/or item drops for your job materials. Or again, you can simply go to your events and do whatever it is you need to do. Generally speaking, of course, I do these first to get them out of the way. Hopefully they can trigger the Whimsy Shop. If not, then I'll continue through my normal routine of farming either the event quest on day 1 or subsequently on the other days where I'm done with those events, I will go back and farm the story mode. Now in the story mode, if you are far enough in terms of up to chapter 4, one of the best single-handed, quickest way to farm is the Good Idea map. In this map, the enemies are bunched up and it's very easy to simply take an AoE unit and get them all killed right off the bat. And to show you that, I will go ahead and do it real quick. I'm going to do not on auto for a second just to show you what my account does if I was to manual. Ideally, you want to set your AoE in the middle slot as you saw there, and hopefully you're farming that your other unit is going to be a little bit slower than your main unit. And in this case, she is. So basically what will happen is, all you gotta do is come up here, use the Cosmic Plume if you have her, and there should be no reason not to have her because right now the game is giving us Mediana free for everyone and anyone. Boom, they're all dead, easy money. Now here's a good thing about this specific way of farming. When you're farming on story mode or any other mode using your own team, you can turn off the abilities, the animation. Go to battle settings, go to ability effects off, and that should do it. So at this point, you should have triggered a Whimsy Shop. And if you did, bear in mind the Whimsy Shop has a 30-minute countdown meter in which the shop is activated for. General consensus across the community is wait an additional 30 minutes to an hour after the shop has disappeared. Therefore, roughly 1 hour to 1.5 hours should you start farming again to trigger the Whimsy Shop. Now at this point, to continue our flow, this is when I suggest that once the Whimsy Shop is triggered and you bought everything that you want out of it, simply go to Farplane, go to Multiplayer, and go ahead and start farming the events that you want to farm. And the reason being is the Whimsy Shop is on a countdown meter, and you want to kind of utilize the Whimsy Shop as much as you can. And take the time now, farming multi, it does not trigger any Whimsy Shop activation. And on top of it, this is a great opportunity to save up some of your energy and let some of your energy regen while you're joining other people's multi-rooms. I suggest people do is if they don't have a lot of time, and they need to walk away from their game, but they're within close proximity of playing their game, simply go to the EX quests of the event and voila, you can actually auto it all day long by doing auto repeat. And this is only advisable for people who decide to have extra energy they can spend, or they're just really low on time, but they need materials. This will also allow you to gain experience for your teams, job points for your team, and of course, farm at your own pace. And you don't even have to do anything other than clicking on auto. Generally speaking though, I don't really advise this for free-to-play players because energy is very valuable to us. We only get a certain number of potions, and generally speaking, I do not recommend, I repeat, I do not recommend spending your hard-earned Visiors to replenish your energy because Visuals is by far one of the most limiting resources in this game for you. One big giant mistake I realized I've been making a lot is during a fresh release of an event in conjunction with events that's already existent. For example, we'll take the current situations as an example, and that is the release of the new recipes to the game, which would be the training quests for the Platinum Mace and the Coral Sword. What I mistakenly done was realized that I should be farming as hard as I can right when the event comes out. But when you take a look at how many days is remaining, they gave us 2 weeks to farm it. But as you can see, the Final Fantasy Tactics event is ending quickly. And one thing I highly recommend people doing when they're looking at what their plans are for specific events is simply look at the mob shop. When you take a look at the mob shop, you see what kind of items they're offering you. And it's important to figure out exactly what you want out of the mob shop as a short-term goal. Once you're able to reach that goal, only then do I recommend going hard on the newer quests. Because the way the game is designed is, newer quests usually can overlap with the older event, but you always have a lot more time to deal with those events. Generally speaking, I recommend finish farming for everything you want out of the first event, then subsequently start going hard on the second event. My mistake was I spent an entire day farming for the Coral Sword when I should have went ahead and finished the Final Fantasy Tactics event, getting all the things that I wanted, and worry about the Coral Sword at a later date. Since I recommended farming in story mode for that specific map, you're going to be getting tons, and I mean tons of materials from that specific map. With the recent addition of the item exchange shop, there's no real reason to farm for many other items of the same rarity if you already have tons of it of a different kind. What I mean by that is, for example, let's say you're looking for a weapon gem and you farm tons of the purple ones from that map that I recommended. All you have to do is go to equivalent exchange and get the ones that you need instead of going ahead and specifically targeting a different map to farm. The reason being is I have so many of these from that specific farming map. Now I can simply just take a bunch of these and exchange it for something else. Even though it's 2x to 1, the time I save by farming that one map is more than makes up for it over time. Well, I hope this helped the players that are either beginners, intermediates, or perhaps even the advanced players. I know for most of us, we probably already have routines padded down, but I feel like explaining what I do is a good idea because maybe some of it may help players and maybe some of it won't. End of the day, if I can influence one player to get them to have a better farmer routine, then I feel like my job is done. And for the rest of the viewers who have your own routines probably mapped out by this point, share with the rest of us. Perhaps we can all learn something from each other in terms of saving time. Time is your most valuable resource, so use wisely. So at this point is when I say, I think that's all the time I have for this video. So take care of yourself always and your loved ones as well. And Frank Castle says, Nash Taters and his family out. Peace.